So maybe in this picture you see a story. On the left-hand side, I see quite a few lines. It looks very violent. It looks uh, conflicting, like there's something bad happening on the left side. But I also see a rainbow, so there's something promising on that side. On the right side, it looks a lot happier. There's none of those lines, and the sun is out. It looks a little bit greener and looks like there's two people walking over on that side of the painting. Now, to go a little bit further with this, the painter of this is Kandinsky, who I really like. He is a Russian painter, and you can see the title, Composition 4. It has something in line with music, because when we refer to a piece of music, classical music, oftentimes we call it a composition because everything is so arranged. When you compose something, you arrange every little element. And same thing if you're a painter, you're thinking about, well, possibly thinking about it, or maybe you're just throwing paint on the canvas. Either way, though, something is coming out of you. You are somehow arranging what's happening on the canvas, and this is obvious that it's quite composed. Later on, Kandinsky became much more abstract, and you could see his paintings really look like music in visual sense. Okay, so again, many possibilities of ways of looking at this, and though Kandinsky himself probably had ideas about it, I have my own interpretation of it, and it's that interaction between the two that's really the interesting thing. And in fact, Kandinsky may have put things into this painting that he wasn't even aware of, because as you know, we all have this subconscious self. And to give you an example, sometimes people, when they write a piece of music, they end up getting sued by somebody else because they say, hey, that person stole my song. And meanwhile, the songwriter who's being sued says, I had no intention. Maybe, but probably he heard that other tune and somehow parts of it came out, and they get in trouble for the part that came out, even though they were not conscious of actually writing some other tune by accident. Okay, so that's just maybe an example. Now, different interpretations can be based on a lot of different things. This is a picture of Scott Joplin, and I'll tell you, I've been playing a lot of his music. Many of you may know him for Ragtime, and I've been playing a lot of his music this summer because it's always upbeat and happy sounding for the most part. And you know, the summer was a little bit difficult because of COVID and being confined, and whenever I play his music, I feel a little bit better. He must have had a pretty rough life, but he was a classically trained musician, and he wrote in this kind of combination style. But in order to really understand his music, you probably have to know that he played in bars and a lot of gigging with different musicians, playing in houses of ill repute. So, and maybe not, some shady places. But the story of the music that he wrote, the life of the composer, the historical context, the year it was written, what people were thinking and doing during the creation of the music, all of this is super important. And when we start looking at the historical styles, we look at how people thought during that time, and their thought process and what they prioritize becomes super important. So what are some of the purposes that classical music serves? I mean, we know that popular music usually is just a few things, maybe. Popular music tells a message, sometimes has a story, oftentimes it's for entertainment, it's for dancing. So, but classical music, I think has a broader spectrum. So here are some of the things here. Ceremonial, we hear music during weddings and funerals, graduation, 4th of July. Those things will not be the same with the certain pieces that we hear all the time. Therapeutic music, aesthetic, just for music's sake, like a beautiful object. Storytelling, expressing feelings, religion, of course, which is probably up in the area of ceremonies, dance music, and background and entertainment music also as well. It could tell a message, especially in the 20th century. There were a lot of messages and hidden messages that people were trying to convey with their music without letting other people know. And then probably more recently, video games. In the early 20th century, of course, film and then TV and then video, but now video games. So you might realize from that classical music really goes where the money is, because it does take education. This all costs money. The people who write the music know they have a product to sell. And so usually those in power who have the money are paying for this music. And the music is written in a certain style, conveying the priorities of those people who are in power and have the money. Now, music is a little bit democratic in that classical music is played in a lot of different environments. And here you see a really interesting, great ensemble out of Detroit. This is the Sphinx Ensemble. They started playing in Miami many years ago. I don't know, maybe it might be 10 years now, in concerts at the New World Symphony. Well, exactly, actually, where the New World Symphony performs. So they've always been invited down, and hopefully sometime you will get to hear them play. But they're out of Detroit. And now, to sum up, I have a few points to make, and this is it. Some music stands the test of time. Doesn't have to be old, but it does stand the test of time. It doesn't go, for us, Western music doesn't go back before the Middle Ages. We don't have any records, so we don't have Greek music other than some scales and maybe a little bit of a fragment on a piece of pottery. But any Greek music is kind of a guess. This music has a lot of influence across many cultures, but of course this is Western classical music. We live in the West, and I am not an expert on anything but Western classical music. So we can listen to classical music from other countries. There's, of course, Chinese classical music. There's classical music in, in every country. But in the Western world, this is what we're focusing on. Okay. And we hold on to this music because, again, it's really, as far as Western music goes, it's the best of the best. And it has some kind of universal appeal to everyone. It can be listened in many different ways, and you can choose the way you want to interpret it, whether it be a technical type of interpretation, the instruments and the melodies and so forth, or maybe from a historical perspective, or the story, or maybe the composer's life. Maybe it's just your own feelings that come up from listening to the music. Okay, and it does serve a lot of different purposes, so it does help to know when the music was written. And finally, that the music itself is a reflection of the society in which it's created. So I hope we can put it in context this semester, and maybe you'll start making some connections between how the music sounds, why it was written, and what it meant to the people then, and maybe what it means to you now. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.